And
We're all ready.
all right, we're good. Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Bienvenidos all. You're joining us. Oh my gosh, a crescendo of people here in Cultivating Voices. Live poetry is probably one of the most spirited readings I've had the pleasure to be part of. Everyone's spirits seem very, very high today, and I'm deeply appreciative for the excellent energy. And of course, for those of you joining us from many different corners of where you all are living. Well, I'm your host for today, Sandy Yannone, joining you today from Olympia, Washington. We are celebrating our reading today with our live open mic. Everything is on the table, no themes. The readers bring into the stage what they feel moved to share. So we will have what I have no doubt, because it's what I've heard and seen for many, many, many readings, many a Sunday now, be a wonderful carousel of poetry for our listening pleasure. And thank you so much, everyone who's joined us to read and who's joined us to listen today to our readers. Indeed. Thank you. So let's get started. And our first reader today is Josephine LoRe, followed by Matt Mooney. And Josephine, I just want to say, I know you've made a big transition recently, and I'm impressed that you have the time to be with us, and grateful.
Thank you. Well, it's wonderful to be here. I'm in the middle of a move, and both of my poems are related to that move. The first, well, I should say that I come from Calgary, Alberta, which is the traditional ancestral lands of many different Indigenous groups that inhabited and also traversed through here. Piikani, Siksika, Kainai, Nakota, and Tsuut'ina. And I would like to acknowledge them and thank them for bringing language, culture, and poetry to this land. The first poem is called One Sock, and it comes with a bit of a trigger warning. And this is not this move. This was my last move. Packing up the boxes to move this house to my next house, this life to my next life. And I find evidence of that old life, the unresolved life, the life still able to maim the optimist in me, that previous version of me who still believed in promises of forever. And there's this one box, and it should probably all go to the trash. Recycling, repurposing, for the tubes of paint are empty, the tips of brushes hardened, markers left without lids, dried up. But in among them is one sock, one navy blue sock with red dots, and I remember his fleshy calf, milky pale skin from his father's, from my mother's Celtic side, not the olive Mediterranean I carry through my father's bloodline. One small sock, a sock he would have worn when he was 2, just walking, rubbing sunscreen onto that fleshy calf, wanting to eat those perfect little toes. One sock, throw away the paint tubes, keep the brushes, attempt to soften the hardened tips, toss away the capless markers, but not that one blue sock. And then the plastic bin with the camelback he used when he rode bike and the size 10 cleats from his high school years. Why would I need to keep those? Why does my heart tighten when I pick them up and touch the dried mud leather? Why is it that one sock and those cleats sting my eyes with salt? Those size 10 cleats. For by that time I was alone. I sat at the bleachers at Shoulders Park, and everybody's mom and everybody's dad was there, cheering the Lancers to victory, and I sat and watched my boy alone. I packed up that life and left that house with wounds unhealed, moved away but kept the torn up bits in boxes, sealed tight with wideband tape, put them in the basement where they would stay, safe. Opening them up, X-Acto knife slits open a hole in my chest, size 10, football cleats, one small blue sock, red dots. And the next one I have is not a sad poem, and I'm actually in the process of transplanting my garden. I took some perennials and I brought them over. I'm going to read this one off my computer, and it is called A Litany of Blooms. I shall continue to plant until my garden contains every named and unnamed shade of green, from spruce harboring evening deer to silver gray wolf willow spray, translucent lilac just before bloom, the prickle of nettle, the tremble of columnar aspen, clover conquering grass. I will learn all the common and the Latin names, rooted deep in Greek, golden splash, Euonymus, pleasant sounding, lobelia, gypsophilia, linium, creeping lamium, lilium, allium, alyssum, helichrysum, a litany of blooms, flowers for insects and flowers for birds, armeria, peonia, delphinia, verbena, campanula, petals in a panoply of color, Bahia blue, splash red hypoestes, coleus, and creeping purple thymus, artemisia, fuchsia. From sun worshippers to shadow lovers, maidenhair and ostrich fern, convallaria majalis, lily of the valley, muguet in any language, that first whiff of dappled spring. From ground creepers to celestial seekers, lavande, papillon, butterfly, lavender ready to take flight, blooms whose words can cast a spell. Lavatera, celosia, primula auricula, scabiosa, argentea variegate, cosmos sonata. Dicentra spectabilis, known to the French as Cœur de Marie, Mary's heart bleeding for a dying son. From the sacramental, meadowsweet bridal veil, to the far-off lands, Maltese cross, Spirea japonica, Iris siberica, lemon cypress, Nanking cherry, anemone sprung from the tears of Aphrodite and the blood of her mortal lover, Adonis, whom she did implore not to hunt the boar, to no avail. The epic and the commonplace, Johnny jump-ups, petite pensée, daylilies, and hardy roses named for explorers, Frobisher, Baffin, Franklin, the rugosas. May I never more plant a rose liking scent or thorn, for a rose indeed, by any other name, a rose. And that's that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josephine. Indeed, a litany of bloom. Beautiful. Well, next, we will hear from our dear friend, Matt Mooney, followed by Lesley Traynor.
Okay. I'll start with the poem from Earth to Earth, and it's called A Seat, and the seat is a seat, an old seat from a mowing machine, a hay machine, one of the highly advanced technological pieces of machinery in the 50s, going into the 60s. Horse-drawn hay machines were a luxury in the hayfield. And an old seat that I took from the farm that was laid aside, and I happened to have a very relaxing evening with it, sitting down looking at around me and the garden. A seat I have a seat and I sit on it, where buttercups abound until another cutting comes. Dried twigs and timbers too, and still some turf remains in the open sheds behind me. I have a seat and I sit on it. Blackbirds banter on and on, talking from tree to tree in a tongue unknown to me. But their music says it all in deeper ways than words. I have a seat and I sit on it, on metal, on a wooden block. Pierce in letters, part of it, makers of the hay machine. Lay to rest against the wall. Now all is gone, wall and all. I have a seat and I sit on it. And after all these years gone by, since the mornings of my life, when I sat on the old moor, that was for me my motor car, which I drove in make-believe. I have a seat and I sit in it. My father often sang on it when it was working away, well oiled up to cut the hay, pulled by his willing horses as the lark sang an hallelujah. I have a seat and I sit in it, and a blue tit flits frequently from blackthorn bushes to a nest under a broken slate near the garage gutter there, discreetly feeding her family. I have a seat and I sit in it, in tune with nature freely, and it's like praying silently, shaking off chains of thought that imprison me unwillingly. Now I can fly to where I will. And now we come to a poem called Inferno, which is a fire and broke out in a bog. And this, of course, has echoes of maybe mighty great fires all over the world in summertime that cause an awful lot of havoc and misery. Well, Inferno is the title of this, and this is from the Falling Apples collection. The wild creatures of the bogland at midnight, time of gentle sleep, all curled up in their slumbers, in furze, bush, and rush and reed, had to fly in frightened flurry from a sudden raging fire. Each furze in turn first crackled, then it blazed high into the sky, lifting off the cloak of darkness, where I looked down from the hill, overflowing, shining light on me. All songbirds sleeping silenced, and the magic of that cuckoo's call I heard, I'll hear no more, I fear. Blue lights flash and sirens wail on winding roads to this inferno. Tonight, our backroom bedroom is lit by burning bogland light. But tomorrow, no furs in bloom for me, only burnt black I'll see. And I will finish up with a poem called The Elysian. The Elysian Fields. A kind of a phantasmagorial poem written coming home from Tralee one fine evening, from Tralee to the Stone, sunset. The Elysian Fields, they look like Elysian fields to me up in the sky overhead, coming down the hill of Leith, leaving the sun behind to sink solemnly near Mount Brandon. Above, its rays had gone ahead on red and purple, pink and rosé, fleecy clouds in ridges running towards the village of Kilflyn. Perplexed as to its connotation, this glimpse of suspended glory. Overhead, our Champs-Élysées, furrows on the fields of heaven, where our God reigns, is sung. Hear the saints say, Deo gratias, praising God for what they have, free from sin in the land of love. Seeing that it's so near from here, I'd like to climb its silken ladder to get a taste of our final destiny. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Matt Mooney. It's always a reading when you're in the room. It's always a reading when you're in the room. Well, next we have the pleasure to hear from Lesley Traynor, followed by Michael Durack.
Thank you. These are from my collection of Ethiopian poems when I lived in Ethiopia. You should not know. Forgive me. My body holds trauma. She says she cannot remember why she must tread wood, not wool. Forgive me if my eyes do not connect, instead scan and escape. Forgive me if I cannot tell you, voice why I sit on the chair behind the door, know I can gain time before they arrive. You should not know these things. It is I who hides within rocks, spine scorched against stone, holding heat at midnight. Wait for who will arrive first. Lion, the man with the rifle. And one of the things I used to love when I lived in Ethiopia, because it was crazy, was dancing in a little shack down at the railway station. And the place was called Lagar, and it had a dirt floor, but it was beautiful. Dancing at Lagar. Once the sun falls off the roof of the shed, once the iron horse has been led to bed, a beat starts up, primal, a call to the faithful. It paces footsteps across the sleeping rails to a place where rifles and colour are left outside, suspended in the darkness. In that other place where war and death stalk. Before the soldiers ride the streets searching for those that have not heeded the warning, Lagar keeps us safe, locked in her thrall, safe until curfew. Fingers bound together, black on white, my toe cuts a rut through the grit. A taut arc bends my hip to its groove across his body. Not even the jasmine breeze that breaches the open walls can separate. And on we move, synchronicity. River wash shirts tucked into jeans absorb the heat from her tin roof, paying back that stolen from the day. Our bodies pulse through her captives, sharing their joy at being alive, dancing at Lagar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lesley. Wow. Oh, fabulous work. Well, next we get to hear from Michael Durack, followed by Kate Wegrzyn. Good evening. Good evening, Michael. I'm so glad you're here tonight.
Hi. Thanks, Sandy. I've got three short poems, recent ones. The first one was prompted by a colloquial expression, which is actually quoted in James Joyce's Ulysses. And I've used the quote as an epigraph. Think you're escaping and run into yourself. Longest way around is the shortest way home. Leopold Bloom in Ulysses by James Joyce. Before we discovered Euclidean geometry, before we had truck with isosceles triangles or the square of the hypotenuse, Experience taught us that one rough path through fields to school could race two smoothly tarmacked roads. On the rugby pitch, we practiced the art of corner flagging, the diagonal that led directly to where the action would be. And sometimes an opponent could best be beaten by going through him for a shortcut, a maneuver New Zealanders dubbed the Maori sidestep. As grown-ups, we employed commercial shortcuts, sharp practice, chicanery, and ethical shortcuts, dissimulation, equivocation, economies with the truth, while we diverged from the puritanical straight and narrow to Shakespeare's primrose path of dalliance. Now it is time to slow down, to ignore rat runs and beelines, to heed Bloom's warning, avoid running into ourselves. Time to follow the ring road's gentle arc, to appreciate that the longest way around may well be the shortest way home. And my second one is a celebration of the music of birds, Noon Chorus. As Roy Orbison's plaintive in dreams eschews repetition, so does the blackbird trill his notes in endless variation. While the song thrush, fresh out of Tin Pan Alley or the Brill, sticks to the formula, pipes loudly, doubles and trebles. The willow warbler launches his high soprano, then plummets down the scales until his music fizzles out, as does the chaffinch, but he, in a spirit of mischief, ventures a snide wolf whistle before he slings his hook. The great tit's ambulance siren, the greenfinch's wheeze, and the bullfinch's creaking rusty gate. It takes all sorts. Even the boring five-note wood pigeon and the raucous punk rocker, the jackdaw or rook. Those out-of-tune, subversive anti-cantors may audition for a place in the Noon Chorus. And I'll finish with a poem based on famous lines from Robert Frost. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. How way leads on to way. Knowing how way leads on to way, lane to avenue, Boreen to boulevard, it is unlikely I will get to go back, take a different path, resolve the what-ifs and might-have-beens of my life. As history cannot unwage a war or revive the dead, knowing how Apple Key led to Latin Bridge, to Franz Joseph Street and Gavrilo Princip's gun, knowing how Houston Street led to Elm, to Texas Book Depository and Dealey Plaza, knowing how the ways from school and college to Wedding Aisle and pension seemed as inexorable as the one direction creeping of the hands of a clock, or the streams that gravitate to rivers and the sea. The fragile coincidences that bring us together or keep us apart, and the strokes of fate that steer us to suburban comfort or destitution, dispel the illusion that we possess an outside, let alone the inside track. We bend our destinies as far as they will yield, uncertain to the end, knowing or not knowing how way leads on to way. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. And indeed, I feel like, today, as with most Sundays, we get to celebrate really that line that you had, the fragile coincidences that bring us together. And just really grateful for the poetry today from everyone. Thank you. Thank you. I'm grateful for those coincidences that bring us together. Well, next we will hear from Kate Wegrzyn, followed by Linda Ohlson Graham. Hi, Kate.
Hi. I think I better set my timer. Okay, let's see what I can do. Hi. So one of my favorite shorts to listen to, it's an Oscar short from 1988, is The Man Who Planted Trees. A wonderful listening. And the musical accompaniment is one of my favorite musicians, the Paul Winter Consort. And so I go on to trees. Trees are so important in so many ways. I soak up the rain from the top of my leaves down through my mighty branches to my trunk, you see. I soak up the rain so I can live and grow. I soak up the rain, don't you know, don't you know? I soak up the rain from the roots in my ground. I soak up the rain all around, don't you see? You don't see my roots in the ground. I have the star-nosed mole and the mouse and the vole. I got the roly-poly and the squirrels and the mouse. And I've got the vole. I've got everything living under the ground in the roots of my ground. The roots of my ground up to the leaves of my tree. That's what I sing to children, so I thought I'd sing to you. Dancing trees. Bare tree branches dance, remembrance of you, seasonal change of view, lush green, full bloom renew, sunrises, sears, branch-tipped yews, paint a towering sky above, you stand below, sky branch echo, gathering knowledge, cardinal directions joined together. I saw a sculpture in the park, and it was the yoga tree pose, standing up on one leg and one leg raised as a balanced tree. And the haiku to Jane Day Decker, local caster in Loveland, Colorado. Haiku to you. Unfolding leaves tease, variant topography, curvaceous thrust. Searching for the tree that catches my eye, like the person in a crowd that has that look you cannot deny. When you turn, there is a moment you cannot defy. We are an upreach of an umbrella sky. Then I do have one more. And for those that have watched the photographs that I write, there is, and Thomas has often watched my photography as I have followed his daily during the weekdays. This is called Cottonwood Skeleton. Snow-dusted foothills, 18 degrees morning freeze, cottonwood salute. Cottonwood shadow, her skeleton bone remains, keyhole of dreams past. Moonlight burial, fare thee well, mountain ash tree, waxwing feast has passed. Dark clouds rise in waves, moonlight sears through bare branches, resting to leaping bird songs begin with her light. Moon creeps in my sleep, news envelopes the dream time, all carried into mind-clear visions. Past remorse is now a tailed crimson, young anger, a directed folly. Let the young find greater joy and be jolly. Thank you. I did it.
Here's to that. You did it. You did it. Here's to that upreach of the umbrella sky. Beautiful. Homage to trees. And thank you for singing for us.
Brave of me.
Well, yes, and beautiful. Brave and beautiful. Well, next we get to hear today from Linda Ohlson Graham, followed by, keep it, hold it, got my list here. I want to make sure Sylvia Clare, of course. Thank you. Thanks, Linda, and welcome.
Sandy, nice to see you.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, thanks. Well, so I mean, there's so much going on in the world. You know, that's an understatement. And my writing speaks of a path to peace. So this is a piece that I put together with different lines from my writing, and it's titled Entrance into a Quiet and Peaceful Age. The qualitative mindfulness we collectively are able to experience as a race of people could in fact propel us into an age of light and beauty. Has the time arrived when humanity is able to digest the remarkable reality of just how simple it could be to shift the Earth's vibration? The French philosopher Teilhard de Chardin created the word noosphere to describe the layer of thought that hovers above nature and acts as a universal consciousness. It's what people think of as the one mind or the collective consciousness. Chardin actually felt it's a our thinking envelope that our thoughts go up to and then are reflected back. And that's when I came up with this philosophy that if enough people could simply quiet their thinking minds after coffee in the morning, someone say, I'm just going to watch my breath or repeat a mantra. If enough people could quiet their thinking just for a few minutes daily, incrementally, I believe it's a formula for world peace. Here now, it's our choice how exactly life unfolds. The entire planet could realize we create the essence of our joy. Because we've diverged from our center, we are heading towards hell. Nature is an open book to enlightenment. Our process is to learn and read it. Shifting, erratic global weather patterns are trying to make us realize seeds for growth and change are planted in the future. Crisis can bring about an evolutionary leap. There are laws of manifestation. We, in fact, are co-creators and can more fully actualize our experience. As mankind calms as nature, Mother will be pleased. Beginnings from creation breathe peace and joy and balance. They are what reality is made of. Humanity chooses. Breathing, how conscious we are of our breath in each moment as it enters and exits our body, determines our experience. Letting go of thinking gently with very little effort is an essential component. We, as a collected race of people, could enter what's called heaven. Here, now, we simply need to choose it. Heaven is a breath away. It's this close. Look, I'm breathing. Consciousness can be multiplied by mankind watching breathing. What a concept. An even larger concept. Breathe in through the crown, which is the top of the head, out through the navel, hence heaven. Could it be that simple? The earth is flying now. Time span meaning has new dimension. Space before us beckons. Higher realms are ours. Ready, jump. And that was my parachuting command in 1978. All the beings of all the worlds are watching now, so desirous of our upliftment, praying to mankind to hear the calls. They have been in a steady stream, beaming to our heart's desires, caressing what we say we want. We could see the end continuum as clearly as they do, rising in the bluest skies, fully in our heart for love, being one with God. Please hold the thought with me that peace on earth and calmer weather patterns can easily happen in a moment or two of silence and enough of the collective mind. Thank you so much. And I will mention my writing's under the name Earth, Ocean, Heavens. So I invite anyone to look at, I have a website.com, earthoceanheavens.com, and there's a book on the homepage. Sandy, it's so good to see you and everyone, All the best. Thanks a million.
Thank you, Linda
Sure.
Ohlson Graham, Poet Laureate of Peace, of Peace. Love that entrance into a quiet and peaceful age. And also that idea of, taking your lines from your from your bodies of work and recombining them into a new piece. I really encourage folks to try that yourself. I've been thinking about doing that with Boats for Women, just taking a line from every single poem in the book and creating one poem from it. So again, thanks for that impromptu prompt.
Thank you so much.
Well, next we'll hear from Sylvia Clare and then Teresa Gallion.
There we go. I'm unmuted now. This is a poem about. It's called On Loan. It's basically similar to the previous poet, actually, Linda, looking at how we view ourselves and how that affects our interactions with the world. So this is called On Loan. This body is on loan from the universe of infinite potentials. Each cell a transient gift for me to use with wisdom, or to squander with falsehoods and destroy with toxins. This life is on loan, a slow dance through time, each step each just as it is, without valence.
You might be covering your mic a little bit with.
Sorry, yes, I just moved the thing. Should
No
I start
worries.
again?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Start again, shall I?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. This body is on loan from the universe of infinite potentials. Each cell a transient gift for me to use with wisdom, or to squander with falsehoods and destroy with toxins. This life is on loan, a slow dance through time, each step measured and traceable through a trail of consequences and outcomes lying in my wake, each just as it is, without valence. This moment is on loan, a timely opportunity to be, a fleeting glimpse into the abyss of eternal creation, itself impermanent, a library lending itself out to infinite projects. This love is on loan, a bonding, connection, shared journey, an intimacy and honesty opening to life while we have it. Love grows when nurtured, fades when abandoned, and has limitless capacity. Right, this next one, somebody mentioned bees earlier on, and I was beekeeping all morning, so I thought I'd read this. It's called Spring Bees. My bees are in spring mode, time to reproduce, they say, crafting queen cells with their advanced waxworking skills, master craftswomen of the perfect tessellation. First, the aged queen leaves with her courtiers, intent on finding new palaces to mould and create their worlds. A few drones to pay homage and fertilise future generations, cast out when winter draws near, too costly to feed. New queens are born and courted, then rise to their roles in regal bee style, taking subjects with them to fly, to also seek palaces anew, clustering in trees and on branches, bowing so low with their weight. While I rush about collating simple wooden boxes with frames that appeal to bees as cabbage does to pigeons or beans to voles. And as they march, a simple white sheet serves as a red carpet for Her Majesty. She takes up residence and her workers rush about building, cleaning and harvesting, endlessly toiling to meet her needs, as long as she meets theirs, an egg a minute, laying new workers for short, fulfilling lives. I love bees, not individually, but as a species. Their loyalty and stubbornness, when they do not want to go where I put them. Sometimes they build where I want them blocked. I want easy, they want wild. Working with them, allowing them their way, preference makes happy bees. They rarely buzz or confront me. When I go down, watch from behind my viewing tree, sending them loving thoughts every morning. Do they ever know I am always their friend, though I do mess up from time to time, as all friends do? But I'm on their side in a world hell-bent on destruction of all things wild and wonderful. I do love the bees in spring, so bursting with optimism, how much they can spread, how far they can fly. They're happy in this garden, and for them I am happy here too. Bees among the trees, in sunshine, in spring. Is that my 5 minutes?
Yes, I thank you so, so much. I love now that I can vision you beekeeping, and it makes me, of course, also think of, for me, another poet that wrote about, I mean, there's many that wrote about bees, but the one that's just coming into my mind right now is Sylvia Plath and her beekeeping poems, of course. Thank you so much, Sylvia Clare. And next, we shall move to hear the poetry of Teresa Gallion. I'm just like overjoyed. I'm like jumping up and down, but you can't see me, because I have to stay a little steady here. And also, I want to just say hello to our friends watching and listening on Zoom. You're in for a treat. You've been in for a treat. You've been having a treat, and now we have the treat of Teresa Gallion. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. It's really wonderful to be home, actually. And since I returned from Egypt, my muse is in overdrive. I'm going to read to you 2 poems that I have recently written and really haven't technically edited them all yet. The first one is, words flow over me like a soothing waterfall. I open my heart and love floods my bones. The ecstasy makes me float like a goddess. I cannot pull words from my mouth to express the tumultuous feelings of joy flooding my brainstem. Perhaps today, silence is the best response, gazing the early light of morning streaking on the blue Nile River as I float peacefully on this journey. The inner pictures of my soul are not ready to release. They simply tease me with no mercy. So I yield and bend my knees in praise of this mighty river. Living this moment is all that is necessary to feel the full flow of gratitude. For I shall never see this river again. So I must savor the endless flood of love passing through the morning as I hold my Turkish coffee. In the next piece, my walking meditation draws me to the spirit of the Rio Grande River, quietly soothing in the morning light. I feel regal, for I am here after the blessing of an Egyptian massage to my soul. There is still no words to adequately describe the whole of the ancient energy of the temple's ruins that have been unearthed in all their glory and teased my many lifetimes. I can only say I am remarkably blessed to be sitting here in the Bosque with the wave of New Mexico's love light surrounding me as I gaze the eloquence of the beautiful cottonwoods as they sing in green lyrics just for me. I could shout my gratitude over and over and over, and that would not be sufficient to express my joy for the journey and to be home by this river in my beloved New Mexico. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Teresa, and welcome home. And living this moment is all that is necessary, and I'm glad to be in this moment today with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Well, next we get to hear from my wonderful neighbor, Thomas A. Thomas, whom I got to see in person on Friday, which was like so great to get to sit next to you. And after Thomas, we will be hearing from the fabulous poetry of Marianne Tefft. Thanks, Thomas.
Good morning. I'm coming to you as a guest on Spoxon Island land this morning. And I realized these 3 short poems I've chosen are kind of like the arc of a Sunday morning for me. I'm first waking with a riddle from a dream in my head. I was writing this before I woke this morning. I asked myself if you know the reason you come here on a Tuesday afternoon, asking for friends from the other side to bring you news of friends from the other side, or sometimes this side. Why you ask questions without hope of answers, asking for that which you don't even know the questions, or certainly not how to ask. So my subconscious running a little riddle on me. And then I'm having a thought. I'm feeling empty. I know that feeling. Maybe it's never so far away. It comes and goes. Sometimes it stays a while and you must sit with it. Sometimes tea and a biscuit helps. Sometimes not. And then I go for a paddle, and I have kayak soliloquies. 1, oh, would that I could be whispering this in your ear, my dear, that watching the Satin Creek enter the saltwater cove upon which I float in my mango flesh yellow kayak gives rise to thoughts of your stomach skin fairly rippling like the surface of that creek under which salmon are electric jolts, urgency moving up current. 2, thank you, dear heart, for the gift, your ear-tickling voice recorded in that pause where the 2-rut road runs between fallow field and cut hay acres. Stopped to say you thought of lovers lingering there late afternoon, last of the summer's warmth wafting upwards in blue, and of me, distant, afloat on a blue mirror. 3, I am afloat again, sitting in that yellow shell of a kayak in sunlight, under sunlit leaves letting go, with the blue shaft of my paddle laid flat. So I am motionless here, in the moment of high tide, telling you of time's soft click as big leaf maple leaves leave their branches, sigh down in soft breaths to touch and rest in this silent water.
Thank you so much, Thomas. And I feel like we're hearing so many great titles for things today. And I love that kayak soliloquies. And I'm thinking of Teresa's muse in overdrive, be listening for titles just from phrases and putting things together. Like there's just so much today. Thank you. Beautiful poems. Well, next we get to hear from Marianne Tefft, followed by Kerry Trautman. And I want to just say also, like I now that we've been doing this for 2 years, I love when we have a reading that brings folks who have joined or joined to read recently with folks that have been with us for the 2 years. And so this is just a really beautiful constellation of readers today. And really grateful for everyone's presence and their poetry, of course. I think we might, I don't see. There you are. Welcome.
Everyone for having me. I am one of those who is on the maiden voyage with you today and zooming in from St. Martin. So I appreciate very much the opportunity to share a little something with you. I have 2 poems to share this afternoon, and I think I will cast off with this one, Dragon Moon, which was inspired actually by seeing that this session was going to be the wild card session. And so I found something in the cards. The card reader, the card reader draws a devil and a 3 of swords, but does not pause at this inauspicious pairing. Instead, he tells me to expect a gift in May. I wonder how I will know a new one among the old, for I am surrounded by bold and lively gifts. A daughter who still calls out, "Mommy," from the next room after a 1/4 century. Students who run through the door reminding me and each other, teamwork makes the dream work. A sister who rises in the Arctic cold to ask after my day because it brightens her own dark hours. Even that package of bittersweet you left on the stairs last Christmas was no capital G gift, as the Germans say, no poisonous souvenir of your departure. For from the tarnished wrapping, I lifted a voice that seldom grows hoarse and raise it again and again with sturdy fingers that thrive in exercise on the page. I cannot know what you intended as your parting gift, but I know what I found, and I cherish it among all the treasures of my life as I look back with gratitude and clear vision at our own star-crossed pairing and look ahead expectantly for the promise of this dragon moon. Thank you. Thank you. And as I am a July born, I have a little something about the moon. And I'd like to share you a poem from a collection of poetry that I hope to bring very soon called Full Moon Fire. They say our signs don't mix, hot sun and cool moon shadow, but we got our own tricks and they don't know what we know. The cards say just forget it, but we're in love together. Dynamo and H2O, we're 2 sides of forever. I feel you rise like first light, my lips open to your kiss. Beneath a shower of moonlight, my sea drowns you in my bliss. Your torch has the power to melt my frozen heart. My tide is the elixir that tears your blaze apart. When my rain meets your flame, we take it even higher, making steam, making full moon fire. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Whew, here's to full moon fire.
Yeah, man.
And here and here's to the maiden voyage. Well, a lot of you know I'm very partial to the maiden voyage. I'm very partial to the maiden voyage. Thank you. Marianne Tefft,
Pleasure.
great. Ooh, full moon fire. Wow. Okay. Well, next we will hear from Kerry Trautman, followed by Sandra Wassili. And I think we're going to get to some of our waiting list also, if not all. So thanks, everybody.
Hi there. I'm happy to be joining you. I'm Kerry. I'm in the US in Ohio. There was some talk of fruit in the discussion before the reading started, so I pulled out a couple of fruit poems to read. This one is called To the Pineapple. You are unwelcome in Ohio, August, with our farmers markets, fat melons, bellies yellowed from hot soil, raspberry quartz oozing to card tables, red plums blushed gold, unbelieving they came from nearby yards. Who should be so lucky? Whose backyard were you hacked from? Some kid's machete whacking your stalk, hefting the angry wad of you inside to lose half of yourself to the cutting board. Our pears shape themselves to fit palms, eaten whole on the drive home, dripping sweaty t-shirts. Fruits here are compliant wives yielding themselves to touch. Red Haven peach skin, smooth wine saps, cherries near bursting like water balloons, blackberries juicing fingertips and thighs squeezed between rows. You make a chore of yourself. Leaf blades slit like paper cuts, spiked wilted skin, touch of mold always in the nook of your bottom, inedible fibrous spine, brown bristle eyes embedded in what's good of you. Why would you come here in August when Ohio fields orgasm into baskets? Come back maybe in December for a salad with pomegranate pips and crisp plasticky star fruit when we have nothing of our own. Then this last one is called It's Nobody's Fault But Your Own. A house might live on another street, but still be your neighbor because your backyards butt up against each other like a couple fighting but sleeping back to resentful back. Sometimes neighbors fight over theories like property lines, over dogs barking at every fucking squirrel. Behind my childhood house was Mr. Bodecker with raspberry bushes with jammy colored fruits so perfect it's not my fault I ate them. I know it's the she wore a short skirt rationalization for my choice to do crime. I'm not proud of it, but damn if those sun-warm raspberries weren't worth it. If you were there 2 and 6 years old, you would have eaten them too, crouching between pokey rows in hot dirt. Sleeping back to back with your partner, you're still also ass to ass, which is kind of hot in a way, so you're horny even though you're also pissed off. Sometimes neighbors fight about who voted for whichever property tax thing or who let whose tomcat out to whose lady cat in heat. Sometimes they fight about raspberries. The easiest thing to do would be to roll over in bed and reach down to your favorite genitals and softly touch and whisper, I'm sorry, which would probably make the other person touch you too, and you'd both feel better. And that's what everyone wants in the end, at least most of the time, unless you have strep or are just tired and want sleep, which is the main thing a bed is for anyway. Sometimes the easiest thing to do is to rent a cherry picker truck and invite the backyard neighbor kid to climb into the bucket, get raised into the sky for the highest branches, hand them a pail, say, pick all the cherries you want, because there's a whole huge tree full. It's easy to brew morning coffee enough for both of you. And when you're 6, hovering above the whole neighborhood with cheeks stuffed hamsterish with cherries, and you're spitting pits down into your own yard so cherry trees will sprout on your side of the property line, nothing feels better than being forgiven. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry, for coming to us today from Ohio, bearing fruit. Fabulous, fabulous, amazing, wonderful. Can't wait till next time. Well, everybody, Our last reader in the open mic, the formal portion of the open mic, is Sandra Wassili. And we will go to a bonus on this the fecundity of poetry today, of spring. So I'll ask our five open mic waitlist readers, one poem each, please, a shorter poem, please. I'm happy to get to all of you, but for now, please welcome one of three Sandras in the room today. Maybe, wow, who knew that, I don't know, there must have been an attraction today. Sandra Wassili, it's great to have you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I arrived from California last night, close to midnight. I'm staying with Sandy Kleven and joined here by Cynthia. I'm going to read from The Dream That Is Childhood, a memoir in verse that Third Press published in late 2020. Returning to Alaska is always returning home because I've spent most of my life here, but I was born in California. This is called California Poppy. My mother transplanted one from the garden of California to the wild of Alaska. A golden orange, even the stamens orange, solid, spare, vibrant, fire that stoked the sun. The buds swollen under green skin like elf hats punctuated the beds edging the house. I plucked hats off in song of maidenhood to liberate blooms that quickened the step of summer. The petals strummed the legs of bachelor buttons, modest in blues, whites, pinks. Sang to the nasturtiums, tumbling out of barrels near the porch in yellow and red orange, to derange the thick-set house painted government white into a mansion. Then the next one will reflect our life out on Lake Michigan, which was really out in the wilds near Mount Denali at the Athabascan territory. Nets as narrative. Both parents would ready gill nets set underneath the base of the lake in summer, slipped through its shell, chopped out in winter to catch fish the dogs ate day by day. It was my mother I watched as she stitched new nets from rolls of mesh and skeins of twine. She would throw the shuttle, a harpoon that sailed over the float line, catch the shaft to draw it through mesh while the tongue strung out twine, square by square, to bind corks in place, the part of narrative that shimmers in light and holds the heaviness of a full net. She would fasten the sink line in the same way, fly the shuttle over lead weights that pull the curtain of mesh downward, unfurled in dark water, details of structure out of sight. It was my mother I heard become mute when she repaired holes that visited the nets, torn by all manner of struggle, pike slashing with innumerable teeth, a loon diving for the easy catch, whitefish whipping trapped bodies, seizures that strained cotton fibers, rotting in perpetual submersion. Back and forth, her hand steady as a metronome, she wove new mesh as she dove through failures square by square. A frown would ripple her face. The shuttle began to slash. The tongue broke off when she snapped it back across the gaping tear before the twine had unwound. The rhythm suspended. She yelled at me to get another. One day they were all used up. We waited while my father whittled a new one. The shuttle returned to her hand. She calmed back into her task, her mood guiding restoration of net, the mending of memory. And then I'll finish with a short one, another flower poem, Wild Iris. Blue veins bleed out of eyes of gold. A spell cast in the heat of summer up on gravel. The lake spews up where we once lived. Wild returns to land, once trampled by feet. Wheels, ghost continuing on the way to veins running deep in gold. The skin on my mother thinned under the glint of the electric city, veins inked on top of flesh. She too loved the goddess who rides the rainbow, charging forest, beach, and shades of fire and sky. Where a cut of stone marks her passage, I see only blue. Thank you. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wonderful. I love that line. My mom mentioned it also. The mending of memory. Mending of memory. What a way to think of it. Oh, thank you so much, Sandra. We're gonna go to our bonus round, our wait list. And I'm gonna just ask, that folks on the wait list, if you would, just one poem, shorter poem, please, so that we can get everyone in, and really grateful that our featured poets in the open mic created a nice home for some space so that we could get everyone in today to read. Well, first, and I'm so glad to see Gordon Ferris here, and then we'll hear from Catherine Ronan.
Well, this poem is about my daughter, who's been very ill for the last 12 years. And in December, her tumor came back again, and she had to have surgery in January. And leaving her into the hospital because of the pandemic, we just had to leave her at the door and say goodbye to her until she came out. This is called The Threshold. Falling specks of dust reaching for the light. I see my precious one cannot even say goodnight. I recall her first waddling steps to her race across the sun-hardened garden. I now witness her cross the threshold to the place where demons go. 5 times we guided her, and 5 times we took her home. This time there is a curse, which has her enter alone, without the forehead kiss, and lie alone. Can I send you something thinner than thoughts, taking away your pain and fear, and replanting them into me? Are you resting now? Your eyes closed, dreams crossing the astral plane, to be watched over by loved ones and dry their fallen tears. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing, Gordon, and sending my heart to you, daughter. And that's a poem that's mending of memory feels to me. Well, thank you. So now we will hear from Catherine Ronan, followed by Isaac Cohen. Thanks, everybody. Just a reminder, it's one poem each, and because we're in the wait list bonus round for poems today.
We're in the red zone, Sandy, in the red zone. Okay, so we'll have to keep moving really fast.
Yeah, the red zone.
So just say, everybody, the readings were so fantastic today. The poetry was amazing. I spent the weekend reading at the prestigious Ballingloo House, meeting Zoom buddies in the flesh for the first time. And we were like yearlings left loose, hugging, kissing, fearless for the first time. It was just amazing. I read this poem at the Ballingloo House. It won the Celtic Winter competition in March 2021. And it is my most successful poem if you count it in financial terms. I got €200 as first prize for this poem, and it's published in Blue Monday's anthology. It's called Winter Hope. I knew you would come, invincible sun, rebirth from darkness, clocks burn and turn. Stone singing ancestors face the same sky. Mistletoe glows, fiery ankles feast. On the darkest day, Jupiter and Saturn kiss. Fingers frosted blue trace ancient nights. You offer me the veiled chalice of begin. I crawl out of winter's cave, newborn in your sight, squinting at your song, written in the trees. I knew you would come, invincible sun.
Ooh, I raise a glass to the invincible sun. I raise a glass, and to the €200 for that poem.
Cheers.
Indeed, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Well, next we will get to hear a poem from Isaac Cohen, and then from Sandy Kleven. Cheers, Isaac. It's H2O, everybody. Don't get excited. I'm drinking water.
Isaac Cohen, The Freedom of Summer. In the morning, we came to the sea. We saw neighbors from my childhood. We made a pyramid in the sea. We laughed at fear. We built a Babylon tower which reached the sky. I'm still there. Thank you, Isaac Cohen, Israel. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Don, and all my friends in the world.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Isaac. Appreciate
thank you.
you being here and sharing your poem today. Well, I love the vision of the three women sitting on the couch together. I love it. Here they are, joining us from Alaska. Fabulous. So we've heard from Sandra first. Now we get to hear from Sandy Kleven, and then we'll hear from Cynthia Steele. Welcome, my friends.
Thank you. It's a delight to be here. I had to select so carefully because of Alaska and because many of us have lived way out there in the out there. I'm going to read a poem that draws on my period of time living in Bethel, Alaska, 480 air miles from Anchorage with no roads in. Low on Maslow. In Bethel, Alaska, we don't bathe at will. We stagger our baths, wash quickly, and double up in the shower. We are remote and miserly, skimpy with flushing. A note taped above the commode instructs, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. Queer intimates are standing urine mixes and molders, new strains of algae, stench and stain. When the tank goes dry, the pump runs wild to burn out if we don't catch it. Our ear is attuned to the screams of that small motor, calmed by sudden silence. The neighbor who shares our tank is wasting water. We are sure of it. Think it deliberate. We dream up schemes of retaliation and revenge, water wars on the frontier. Our ear is caressed by waterfall trickles. The water truck is here, delivery, deliverance. We have lost the habit of flushing. Outside Alaska, we are thought careless, uncouth. Our fine adaptation lost in a world of easy water.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you so much. I believe that's the second time I've had the pleasure to hear the poem. So I'm grateful. I always love to hear a poem more than once. Thank you. All right. We will hear now from Cynthia Steele, and then we will leave the couch and travel to hear for our last poet of the day, Rick Spisak. Welcome, Cynthia. Good to see you.
Thank you so much. My husband and I adopted 2 children in Alaska. They're African-American and Yupik. And so we owe a debt of gratitude to the Yupik people who declared us one of them, a Yupik family, when we adopted. So I'm going to read Daughter of a Yupik Woman, which is for my daughter. My daughter remembers eating fish eyeballs and scooping the fish from the bones after it was boiled on the stove. She was a baby, but she has a mind like a trap, a fish trap. The white fish, the silver, sockeye, reds, kings. After years of the white man's food, she does not know how to make sense of the tin can. Her eyes lit up when telling stories of grandma's house with good boiled fish. The story changes, turning to yuck sometimes. With giggles, we remind her, you liked it. It was good. Her trust of the homemade went south some time back when she had to trust better prepackaged foods. Her lessons of the system were longer than preschool. She paid attention to talks about foster parents when she should have been learning the stories of spawning Yukon king salmon. Her birth mother asks us on the phone, does she remember to always call brother, brother, and brother to always say, sister? Sometimes I say, we don't always, we will try harder again. The McDonald's food came with social workers who met to talk about grown-up things, her mother not able to care for her, alcoholism, a disease they never spoke about, multi-generational trauma, things to learn later. They spoke of things over her head, beyond her, while she smiled and tried to enjoy playland. My daughter's solace she took in cardboard hamburgers, eat them fast fries, all food that turned to stone, heavy with deep fry, heavy without her Anna. She couldn't connect McDonald's with love, like that boiled fish that melted in her mouth. Marluk, Aparluk, grandmother, grandfather, Food like other worlds, people like strangers, science fiction, fantasy. She'll learn in college how it is, the same in Moscow, the whole fish being boiled like that. Right now she is 4, and she can only look sideways with mistrust for old ways. No one cooks fish like that in the city. In the city, we spend time with social workers in brightly colored places and get a prize in a Happy Meal. You can't see fish parts in a fillet of fish, and it gets harder day by day to imagine jumping into the water, swimming with the fishes, touching them silvery, raw, and free. Where is my Ata, my father, my people, the real people? She just keeps busy peeling off pickles, smiling, always smiling, no matter what, smiling just like that. We were told she was always a happy child. She is not ours, but we call her daughter. Hanik, she will remember she's Ubik, daughter of Janice, granddaughter of Dorothy, great-granddaughter of Mary, little sister of her big brother, big sister of a younger brother in another foster home. With us, she will touch real fishes, swim with fishes through stories, and live with memories that don't make sense.
Wow. What I love about the wild card open mic is the wild vastness of what gets shared and put forth in front of us. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that poem. I'm really I'm at a loss for words, honestly. So much there. Thank you. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Whew. Yeah, there you go. Appreciate our trio of poets joining us from Alaska. And for our last poem of our wild card open mic today, please welcome Rick Spisak.
Thank you so much. I'm very, very pleased and honored to be with you. Fine poets all. I will try to read this very briefly, very quickly. It's called Wassili Virus, a tribute to Omicron, son of COVID. Oh, Omicron, who's got time for Omicron? Watching, waiting, yet some incubating fools still debating. Dust to dawn shaking, guard my friends from Omicron's taking. Wear your mask, hide your frown, lest your next fashion be some hospital gown. Ere ye old or ere ye young, you've all been targeted by that Wassili virus thug. Omicron in a cough propelled. Omicron, such disaster spelled. Omicron, we've had enough. Omicron, how viri are enough. Omicron in a breeze. Omicron carried by the birdie's sneeze. Shanghaied aboard the doggie's fleas. Would you fly from Omicron, or are you watchful dusk to dawn, visited by that Wassili virus, terrorizing? Pull your mask up if you're the wiser. Don't leave your nose a hanging geyser. Don't spray and play, you atomizer, just to launch the virus invader, a splashing fountain indicator, lest our world comes crashing and the medical staff all bashing. Protect us, those of you who will acknowledge, as long as you've studied or school or college, just to have these fools confront you as they sneering would denounce you, only later to admit it that all that crap they were saying is shit. Just so the vaccine they've been delaying with those fantastic anti-vax conveying so much trash they've piled up, all cometh crumbling, tumbling, noisome poison. Will you now please with all their stinking lies clean up? Thank you, my friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick Spisak. And again, you know, I always encourage folks at the end of these readings, you know, stay safe, take good care of your beloveds. And I think because we began Cultivating Voices in response to the pandemic, not thinking we'd ever still be enduring what we're enduring. And certainly here in Washington State, and particularly here in Olympia, as with so many other places, we're now seeing another big uptick. So as I say, keep the COVID poems coming until we need them no longer, which I hope we won't, but keep the COVID poems coming. Well, everybody, thank you for today's wild card open mic. I'll share with you the names of everyone that we got to hear from today once more, and then I'll encourage us to acknowledge them all with you unmuting. So we began at the top of the noon hour for me here in Washington State, here on the Pacific coast of the US. We began with Josephine LoRe, moved to Matt Mooney, leapt to Lesley Traynor, made another move over to Michael Durack, and we crept back over to Kate Wegrzyn, and then we were able to leap back over to Linda Ohlson Graham. We slid over to Sylvia Clare, and then we took the trek with Teresa Gallion and trotted over to listen to Thomas A. Thomas, where then we made a fabulous move over to hear from Marianne Tefft, and then we were able to hear the knock of fruit with Kerry Trautman. We then slided up to Alaska to hear from the first Sandra today, Sandra Wassili, and then we were moved by and able to kind of gallop with memory with Gordon Ferris. I love then that we were able to listen to the churning words of Catherine Ronan, and Never in Isolation, we heard from Isaac Cohen. We then were able to take a beautiful turn and slither into the world of Sandy Kleven, and we were able to then just take a small leap right next door to hear the poem of Cynthia Steele, and our final poet for the day. It was a rousing one. It roused us. It was a call. It was from Rick Spisak. Everybody, let's unmute our mic and show our appreciation for all
Well
the
done. Bravo,
today.
everyone.
Wild card open mic.
Bravo.
I don't ever
Great
think
to
I'm
have
gonna
you
try
today.
my alpha.
Very nice. Wonderful.
Jovial.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Beautiful.
Good job, everybody.
Great job
Wonderful.
today. Want to thank everyone from joining us from your corners of the world. Many folks from numerous countries with us today for our Cultivating Voices live poetry wild card open mic, with so much gratitude to not only our readers, but the folks that come to be in company with us, to listen deeply. And of course, we look forward to hearing your words. Sylvia Clare, I think I missed saying thank you to Sylvia Clare somehow in my list. My apologies if I did.
You said me.
I did, okay. Oh my God, I got all panicked. Okay.
Fine. I wouldn't have been offended anyway, but you're fine.
Thank you. It's important to acknowledge, for me, to acknowledge everyone. And if I think I missed someone, I come back. So everyone, thank you. Thank you for joining us here in Zoom, but also those of you, of course, who are also watching us from, see, now I'm thinking like, I'm like, oh my God, did I forget Matt Mooney? No, like I did.
Sandy.
Yes.
You know what? We should all retire to the bar now. And I think we deserve to toast every reader tonight with champagne.
Absolutely, Matt. Absolutely.
There you go.
Cheers.
Woo, cheers. It's just a little water, but you can all pretend.
Ladies there on the couch, you were stars.
Thank you. Well, everyone, it's been a great afternoon here, evening, and I hope whatever time zone you're in, it's always the perfect time for poetry, and I always appreciate you taking the time to spend that time with us here at Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. We're here mostly every Sunday, and I hope that I will see you all again very, very soon, with immense gratitude, of course, and always, to Don Krieger and Kim Ports Parsons for their enduring support. We could not hold these programs without your tireless efforts to bring us all together. And I'm deeply, deeply grateful, as I am for each one of you in all of these Zoom squares today. And those of you out there in Zoom world, and also on Facebook, who join us and or watch and or post onto our Facebook Cultivating Voices live poetry page. I wish you all well this week as you navigate whatever time, space, and poetry brings you. And I hope it will bring you the best of what poetry does for all of our hearts, minds, and souls. I'm Sandy Yannone, joining you once again with the utmost of gratitude. And as I say each week, please, 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 please stay safe out there. Take exceptional care of your beloveds, and keep writing your miraculous poems. We'll see you next time. Gratitude.